And sisters, we've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice. Oh, let us all Jimmy Lakey get out of bed. Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice. Jimmy Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey. Jimmy Lakey.
Well, top of the morning to you. Happy Monday. It's Monday. Everybody feel like a Monday? I love Mondays. Every day is Monday is a glorious day. It's the day the Lord has made. Rejoice, my friends. And you and I are together. You're in front of a speaker or in front of a computer, and I'm behind a microphone. And that is how the good Lord intended it to be on this 24th day of February, year of our Lord 2025. Remember that if you're going to be writing any checks today, you'll need to know the date. February the 24th of 2025. 80 years ago yesterday, the flag was raised at Iwo Jima. God bless America. Anybody remember your World War II history? I had to do the refresher. I forgot the name of the mountain. Mount Suribachi was the highest point on the Japanese island. Very significant capture of the island, and it was a symbol of victory and morale boost for our troops there. The flag's visibility was at first they raised a smaller flag, then they got the iconic photo of them raising the larger flag so that it could be seen that the United States was firmly ensconced on the top of the top of Mount Suribachi. So that was 80 years ago yesterday. 80 years ago yesterday, the famous flag was raised at Iwo Jima. And anybody remember the name of the photographer? When I saw it, I said, I remember this from a history class. Joe Rosenthal, 1945. I captured the photo, and it has been seared in hopefully American history in your textbook still to this day. I hope it's out there. But yesterday, 6 Marines in the photograph. And all those Marines taking that high ground and putting the flag up there. So it's a symbol of resilience in America. And 80 years later, our flag is still flying. Hopefully a symbol of freedom all around the globe. So 80 years ago yesterday, some of you might have been there. Some of you might have been watching it on television or seen the photo. I don't know. It would be good to have you here. 3 years ago today, you know what happened 3 years ago today? Putin invaded the Ukraine. That happened 3 years ago today under the demented watch of Joe Biden. As Donald Trump says, a battle that probably did not have to happen and would not have happened had he been in the somebody said my camera's feeling earthquakes. You know, I moved my camera into another studio on Friday, and I just set it back up this morning, and I didn't have the angle right. And, you know, we're low budget here, so I can adjust my own camera. I put my own makeup on, so I don't have any makeup on. I mean, I turn my own lights on. Ladies and gentlemen, I ain't just a pretty face around here, my friends. I'm not just a dulcet tones. I sit around and, well, you say, well, what doesn't producer Chad do that? Listen, you know what, if producer Chad put the makeup on me, I'd look like a drag queen every day. And I wouldn't do that. So I don't let him do that. So anyway, good to have you. Happy Monday. All right. 3 years ago, Putin invaded Russia, and we're still watching that one unfold. It's amazing watching this negotiation tactic with Donald J. Trump. And, he's called Zelensky a dictator. People say, well, he's not a dictator. He was duly elected. Well, he was, but he has, he's done some things in this battle. And it's not as if Zelensky's a saint here. Zelensky is billions of dollars begging and pleading and getting billions of dollars from America. And a lot of that money, he doesn't know where it went to. There's no accounting for it. So I'm not going to cut Zelensky any slack because, again, it was Putin a nasty guy. Absolutely, Putin's a nasty guy. But let's not hold Zelensky up there as some kind of second coming of Christ or as part of the Holy Trinity, because he is not. And I'd still like those old Volodymyr Zelensky to tell us where our billions and billions of dollars have disappeared to. I'd like to see that. I really would. All right, good to have you here. I have a... I'm just hitting the right button here. Oh, by the way, this is for your fun and pleasure. I'm going to give you a coffee through the nose alert here. This could be, again, just before you think that Volodymyr Zelensky is some icon of society, an icon of history, and will be remembered as a Churchillian great. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Zelensky was a performer and an actor, and we've had good actors. Ronald Reagan was an actor, but I don't think this is the kind of actor Ronald Reagan was. Speaking of me looking like a cross-dressing woman, producer Chad put the makeup on me. This is the actual career path, and again, coffee spew moment. Put some coffee in your mouth so you can spew it. You ready? This is Volodymyr Zelensky. True photography here.
And we sent $250 billion to this guy right here.
Watch it again.
And some of y'all are worried about Elon Musk finding corruption. That's why I don't take things in this life too serious anymore.
No, not again. Not again. Oh, God, help us. So anyway, there you have it. There's Volodymyr Zelensky. Zelensky said he's going to resign if they'll let him into NATO. If they'll let the country into NATO, he said he will resign. I don't think that that's going to happen. President Trump has said that it's not going to happen. And I come back to a question I asked last week as we watched this negotiation and these talks about Zelensky and Russia and Putin and Ukraine. Can anybody just tell me? I've been looking for it. Anything that they really did in the Biden administration to end the war, other than say if we just keep arming them and keep giving them money, that they're going to fight. Well, they weren't that serious about fighting there in the Ukraine because they lost and can't account for half the money we gave them. So it's a corrupt little country, and I'll be glad when the battle's over. It's unfortunate that the lives have been lost. Some of the lives have been lost because of incompetence in the White House that let that battle happen, and because billions of dollars that could have been used to save his country. Zelensky, the little dancing man, has lost it. So anyway, it's fascinating to watch. Zelensky does say he's ready to quit if it brings peace, and he pushes back on the idea of United States taking the rare earth minerals. If you've been following this rare earth mineral story, it's actually quite fascinating. Let me just read the CNN story, then I'll get into the rare earth minerals. Volodymyr Zelensky said he's ready to resign as a leader if it means it would bring peace to his country, suggesting he could swap it for NATO membership, also pushing back against the U.S. demands for Ukraine's critical minerals and other natural resources as part of the negotiations to end the war. Now, I heard this weekend, and it turns out to be true. When Europe, they didn't give near as much money as we did, but Europe did not give Ukraine money. I want you to hear what I just said. Europe did not give, a lot of the countries in Europe did not give Ukraine money. They set it up in the form of a loan. They said, we're going to loan you money, and when you get your crap together, you're paying us back. The United States did not set up our money as a loan. We decided to give the money to them with no payback. And this is what Donald Trump is saying. Hey, we've given you billions. You've lost billions of it. And so we want some rights on your rare earth minerals. So Russia wants them. And if we have a right there, it's going to be a lot better for you. And Zelensky's been pushing back on that. I'm not sure where the latest of that thing is, but the video is correct. This is the guy that's running the Ukraine. And this is the guy that your members of Congress, Republican and Democrat, have said that your hard-earned tax dollars have to go to work for. So again, I want to remind you today, when we dismiss this show, we've got money to raise. We got money to raise for Zelensky. Got to give some money away to Zelensky. We still raising money for those Mozambique circumcisions. We still got to get money for that. We got some transgender operations at some crazy laboratory in South America. So again, while you're working today, your hand is on the grindstone. While you're in the cubicle working and you're doing the job today, remember, your government is counting on you to fund Volodymyr Zelensky and also those circumcisions in Mozambique. Everybody work hard today because you've got to spread your dollars all around the globe. All right, Zelensky will go down. As the most effective money launderer. I think you're true. There's a lot of money. By the way, DOGE, this whole USAID thing has been a money laundering scam. I want to play this for you if you want to know how big the money laundering scam has been. I mean, do you really think Can we do an inventory of how many foreskins were collected in Mozambique for those millions and millions and millions of dollars? Does anybody think there's really a foreskin program? And if doing a foreskin circumcision program is the path to getting your nonprofit funded, there's probably churches and NGOs, including my own Rivers Promise. We'll offer that. Send us your $10 million. Yeah, it's all money laundering. Indeed it is. And here's a song to let you know just how effective and how widespread this money laundering use of your taxpayer dollars has been. And this is what Elon Musk and the White House are trying to find. All this money going around the globe, billions of dollars lost. If Volodymyr Zelensky can lose billions of dollars and not know where it's at, how many millions of dollars have been lost for the guys that are supposed to do the circumcisions? How many millions of dollars? If they can lose billions, I think they can also lose millions in some of these corrupt hellholes of nations. And here it is, putting to song the way that your money has been spent with DOGE and Volodymyr Zelensky. Here we go.
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Republic, Dominican, Cuba, Caribbean, Greenland, El Salvador, too, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Venezuela, Honduras, Guyana, and still Guatemala, Bolivia, then Argentina, and Ecuador, Chile, Brazil, Costa Rica, Belize, Nicaragua, Bermuda, Bahamas, Tobago, San Juan, Paraguay, Uruguay, Suriname, and French Guiana, Barbados, and Guam. Norway and Sweden and Iceland and Finland and Germany now one piece. Switzerland, Austria, Czechoslovakia, Italy, Turkey and Greece.
Keeps going. Just keep sending
Poland,
money.
Romania, Scotland, Albania, Ireland, Russia, Oman, Bulgaria, Saudi Arabia, Hungary, Cyprus, Iraq, and Iran. There's Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, both Yemen, Kuwait, and Bahrain. The Netherlands, Luxembourg, Belgium, and Portugal, France, England, Denmark, and Spain. India, Pakistan, Burma, Afghanistan, Thailand, Nepal, and Bhutan, Cambodia, Malaysia, then Bangladesh, Asia, and China, Korea, Japan, Mongolia, Laos, and Tibet, Indonesia, the Philippine Islands, Taiwan, Sri Lanka, New Guinea, Sumatra, New Zealand, and Borneo, and Vietnam, Tunisia, Morocco, Uganda, Angola, Zimbabwe, Djibouti, Botswana, Mozambique, Zambia, Swaziland, Gambia, Guinea, Algeria, Ghana.
Well, there's your tax dollars at work.
Burundi, Lesotho, and Malawi, Togo, the Spanish Sahara is gone. Niger, Nigeria, Chad, and Liberia, Egypt, Benin, and Gabon, Tanzania, Somalia, Kenya, and Mali, Sierra Leone, and Algeria, Dahomey, Namibia, Senegal, Libya, Cameroon, Congo, Zaire, Ethiopia, Guinea-Bissau, Madagascar, Rwanda, Majorca, and Cayman, Hong Kong, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, Yugoslavia, Crete, Mauritania, then Transylvania, Monaco, Liechtenstein, Malta, and Palestine, Fiji, Australia, Sudan, United.
There we have it, my friend. It's just money. That's your taxpayers' money at work. So again, today when we dismiss the program, and I bid you adieu, I want you to all go to work because there's a $486 million consortium of election and political processes strengthening for the country of Moldavia, and we need to spend another $21 million for voter turnout in India. So all of you good working Americans, get your ass out there and work because all those countries are depending on you and your generosity and our ability to fund their money laundering scheme. Speaking of catching the bad guys and catching the money launderers, anybody see this? We knew that Kash Patel got confirmed last week. God bless Kash Patel. And now you've got Dan Bongino, former Secret Service guy, and also was the talk show host on the Cumulus Network, national talk show host that Cumulus had. Dan Bongino is going to work as the assistant FBI director. I'm telling you, if you're a bad guy out there, you got Kash Patel and Dan Bongino breathing down your neck, you might want to find another trade, or you might want to escape the country quick, because these guys know what's happening. They've seen the corruption. They know what's happening in Washington. They know what happens in the swamp. And congratulations, brother Dan Bongino, for joining brother Kash Patel in the White House, or excuse me, the FBI. That's going to be a very interesting tag team duo. And he pretty much, Bongino starts to work today. There's no confirmation hearing for the assistant director. That's just the first hire that we hear of from Kash Patel as the FBI director. So we've got some bad arses. We got some we got some guys swinging some big handcuffs there at the FBI, and God bless them and God bless them. Jim says, please post that DOGE explanation of countries supported to the fan page on Facebook. I will. Jim, that is a fantastic idea. The person that runs my social media is Sucky. And usually it's me. It could be Delilah. But sometimes Delilah gets she's got her dancing job and all that stuff. So sometimes she doesn't post it. I'll get it up there. I'll put it up there, and dare you to get that song out of your head. You get that song out of your head and see if it works. All right. Good to have all of you here. Don't forget, as you can see, we pop up comments if you're out there watching the show. Just post your comment up in the Facebook. It feeds right in here to our studio. Producer Chad is looking at those and seeing if any of them meriting famedom. And you can see we have very low standards. So you'll probably be famous there. We'll pop it right up on the screen. Send your comments, even your sarcasm. We allow sarcasm on the show, and we do allow heckling. And it's Monday, so I know some of you may be a little slow on the heckles, but feel free, even on the Rumble out there. Hello, Rumble. And by the way, what I remind you, all the platforms we're on, I want you to share the platforms, and I want you to like them on the platform and tell everybody else about the show. And I really appreciate you tuning in on a Monday morning. And some of you are not going to be tuned in live, but you're going to be watching in the afternoon. I get messages throughout the day that pop in emails or comments. I get notifications that people are commenting at, 6 o'clock in the evening. It's like instead of watching whatever they're watching on television, this is one of the shows. So if you're watching in the evening time, this is a good morning, and I hope you had a great morning. And thank you for whenever you watched it. All right, I want to welcome in Richard C. Lyons, historian and author. He joins me here in the... Let me get my paperwork in front of me. That would help me. If I click the right buttons. Hold on, Richard. I got to click the right buttons because as I said, sometimes I ain't real smart. Okay, let me go here. Did you? Oh, sorry. Too many buttons here. Richard, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Jimmy. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very well. It's Monday, and it's a lot happening on a Monday, my friend. A lot happening, and you feel like you're a historian, kind of watching this from a perspective of history. We're 30 days in. Have you ever experienced such back-to-back moments that feel like they're historical? Have you ever lived through that, or has there ever been a moment in history where it was so fast-paced?
I think it's wonderful. I really think it's wonderful. And the news about Dan Bongino, I mean, in writing The Shadows of the Acropolis, I studied how Kash Patel and Dan Bongino were hunted, literally hunted, by the federal government. And now the hunted are now the hunters. So it's something wonderful. From a bigger perspective, Jimmy, I think it's important for your listeners to understand that what has happened is we have gone from a socialist, more akin to European version of governance. The tables are turning where we're going back to our constitutional roots, right? And justice follows suit. So when you see the hunted become the hunters, it's because justice is taking place, and those who used federal agencies and taxpayer dollars to destroy people because of their philosophical beliefs or constitutional roots, that table's turned. And I think it's something wonderful.
Richard C. Lyons is my guest if you're just listening to the audio portion, because I know some of you are faking work at a cubicle right now, but you're actually listening to this and your boss thinks you're listening to Beethoven. So welcome to the dulcet tones of Richard C. Lyons and Jimmy Lakey. This moment in history that it's recognized that the hunters have become the hunted. We know what they did to Donald Trump. They wanted him in jail. We know what people should know what happened to Kash Patel. Even Pete Hegseth last week said he kept getting audited by the Biden administration. I mean, we have lived through a period of history where the government that's supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people became the persecutors of the people. Has the last 4 years been, in your perspective, in American history, has it been the worst performance of our government in that instance? And where does it compare in the realms of history where another empire turned their government against the people?
Well, again, it's important for listeners to understand that this has been the organic growth over 100 years of socialism in America, from the time of Woodrow Wilson to FDR, LBJ, Obama. We began seeing this, Jimmy, with Obama when the IRS was attacking the Tea Party movement. You remember the Tea Party movement? I think a lot of people do. And it disappeared because the IRS took all their money. They wouldn't allow them to organize financially. And it also occurred with the HHS, Health and Human Services, attacking the Little Sisters of the Poor. It also happened with the FBI and its surveillance of reporters like Cheryl Atkinson, who didn't agree with Obama policies and, in fact, who brought up illegalities in the manner in which his Justice Department was acting. So that is the outgrowth of having a system of government that is in a sort of castle keep in an administrative state that's unassailable, that has no oversight, that just takes money from Congress and spends it how they want. It's what happens when you concentrate power in one place under one political party, and that was the Democrat Party. Now we're opening up the walls and seeing literally the dungeons. We're literally seeing people eating cake on the top, and people like Dan Bongino and Pete Hegseth and Kash Patel in the dungeon.
Yeah,
it's literally a construct of tyranny.
It's going to be fascinating to see. One of the fears is, Trump's got 4 years here of this term, and there has to be a lot of change real quick, because there's a chance for these swamp rats, if you will, to burrow themselves down. James Carville said, "Everybody just play possum. Everybody just lay low, and they'll go away soon enough."
Yeah, well, this is very true, and it happened to Ronald Reagan, to the great. Really the betrayal of the American voter. When Reagan was elected, Tip O'Neill famously said, look, this furor for Ronald Reagan and for conservatism, it's going to pass by. Just sit by. This is going to pass. And we will again be in power. You see, when you are an elected person in Washington, D.C., you hold your seat by lease at the people's pleasure until the next election. If you're a member of the administrative state, if you're a member of the Democrat Party, you own that state. Those are lifetime appointments that you can't be fired from. Wait until you see all the lawsuits that are going to be so difficult to win by DOGE in getting people out of government, because they have all the legal protections set up by the Democrat Party never to be out of power. We have to work really fast, and we have to take all the executive orders and codify them.
Yeah, the Congress has to get to work, and I know they're still confirming people. They got to get to work, and I hear they are, but it's not near as fast enough, and they don't need to gum up the works here. It's been interesting to watch the strategy by which they have been able to purge, I guess, some people out of government, and maybe you're losing some good people. They offer the buyouts. That's been ruled to be constitutional. They can do that. Today is the deadline for federal workers to return to their cubicles and their offices, and if not, they will face termination and or suspension. It's almost as if they're every kind of angle. They're trying to figure out how do we shrink the size of these bureaucracies, and they're being very creative there in the Trump White House and DOGE.
Well, I loved Elon Musk sending an email to government workers saying, please write to me about what your activities were last week. What did you do last week in your role in the American government? And if you don't have an answer for me Monday, I'll take it that you're resigning. I thought that was just that is private sector mentality in a nutshell. If you're not efficient, you don't survive.
We know that empires don't last forever in history. There's been a lot of rise and falls of empires, and some people have thought, maybe the American empire has outlived many of them. Where do you think we're at on that spectrum of history? Are you optimistic? Are you not optimistic? Kind of give me, as you've studied the ages of history, kind of give it compare and contrast with the USA.
Okay, well, there was a person, a contemporary of our revolutionary generation. He was a part of that group in Scotland that were scholars and really wonderful thinkers like Adam Smith about the economy. His name was Andrew Tytler, and he studied every variety of democracy in history and republics like the Roman Republic. And he came to the conclusion that a democracy survives only until its people realize that they can vote themselves benefits through a treasury that they can plunder, when they start having no respect for private property. When that happens, you have like what just happened, what is just being discovered at the EPA, where they took $20 billion of the taxpayers' money and just got it out the door so they could spend it later. It's literally being plundered from the American taxpayer. $2 billion of that was earmarked for a group Stacey Abrams was in league with. And in its grant, which is what describes how the money is to be respected or dealt with, it says on page 1, you have to spend all this money in 21 days. $2 billion, Jimmy.
Wow.
Talk about, why don't you go to Vegas? Why don't you take the taxpayers' money, yours and my money, and roll the dice in Vegas? Make it one roll. See if you win or lose. On page 9 of the same grant, it says, well, you also have 90 days to learn how to make a budget. You can go to school, learn how to make a budget and how to spend $2 billion after you spent it 70 days ago. I mean, you can't make, this is so bizarre and so bad. So going back to Andrew Tytler, we are at a point where it's going to be a reformation. And there are other philosophers who thought the most dangerous time for any government is at the point when it tries to reform itself. Because there's going to be, the Democrats are laying back a little bit right now because I think they're stunned at what can be done to the administrative state, which they thought was inviolable. What can be done to the media, which they thought would always be their propaganda arm. This is all occurring only because of the unique character of Donald Trump, how he faced the media down, how he survived all the attacks of the agencies, and now is taking the hunted persons in recent history and making them the hunters, because they know what happened to them and they know what they can do to create justice, to create efficiency. This is really, it is, as you opened up, it's really a wonderful time.
It's a fascinating time, and let's say a renaissance, hopefully, of the American spirit. And I like it that I like it that they're stunned. They're stunned that guys like you and I can converse without the censorship out there. They're stunned that Elon Musk bought the Twitter machine. YouTube's the only one we have on this show that's ever given us any hassle. Everybody else, they say, "Hey, everybody speak freely now." Think
about the miracle of Rush Limbaugh. When he became a conservative person on radio, he was one of the first, relatively. Yeah. And really, he opened the door to open communication on our side of the political divide of conservatism. And that has grown. And now through Donald Trump, the ideas of conservatism and constitutional order and roots, these are all becoming majority because it's who America really is. We've been living in a propagandist socialist sort of nightmare. Yeah. And now we're waking up.
It's also fascinating. Richard C. Lyons, our guest, and we'll tell you where to get his book and contact him at his books. But it's also fascinating, though, to see the demographic shift. Even the young people, the younger voters buying into this new American spirit, buying into this new view of America and understanding that the bureaucracy we have is really a deep state. That gives us some hope for tomorrow that instead of, what did Rush call them, mind-numbed robots or mind-numbed numbskulls heading off to the heading out of the university.
The indoctrination centers.
Yeah, the indoctrination centers. They're coming out of there. They're voting for Trump. I mean, that's positive. That the academia did not expect that.
No, and I think right again, Jimmy. I think it's revolutionary that a personality like Trump's has won the day with the students, not with academia. Wait till they start fighting back. But with the students, the student population, his reverence for the Constitution, his just speaking truth to the media.
Yeah.
It's winning. It's winning. So that all the falsehood told by actors and actresses is failing. Yeah. And it's just wonderful.
Richard C. Lyons, if folks want to get a copy of it's now become a whole series there, The DNA of Democracy, Shadows of the Acropolis, where do they find you? Where do they find your books?
You can find me at richardclyons.com. It's a website that's easy to navigate. You can find my books at amazon.com, of course. You can find them at retail outlets if you ask for them.
Richard C. Lyons, always a pleasure, sir. We'll do it again soon, I am quite sure. Thank you very much, Richard C. Lyons, my guest, and always a pleasure to have him, richardclyons.com. And again, the writings, they're the good books. You got to check them out, and you will, I think, enjoy it. We mentioned in just a moment, we're going to bring up Leighton Gray. He's scheduled at 8:30, so he joined us early, so I'm going to rush over to him here in just a moment. But I've got to play this one again. It's another coffee-spewing moment. He mentioned that grant for $2 billion for the Stacey Abrams Foundation, and I had not read it its entirety, but here you have Richard C. Lyons say that they had told her you have 9 days to spend the $2 billion and you have 70 days to put your budget together. Something seems a little bit backwards on that one. Well, when Lee Zeldin came out and said they're going to try to claw back those $2 billion that they've been spent, I'm not sure Stacey Abrams is going to be able to find them. But that's going to be an interesting battle to start clawing some of these money back. And I played this on Friday. And I said, somebody told me it was Stacey Abrams freaking out that they want the $2 billion back. I don't think it is, but I'm gonna play it one more time. I get myself in trouble here. I'm gonna play it again. And can you imagine being Stacey Abrams? You get $2 billion. You have to spend it in 9 days, and you just got to spend. In the last year, you had $100. Now you got $2 billion of government handout for your organization that really has never done anything. $2 billion. This could be very well the reaction she had when she found out her organization had been outed. We played this Friday, but I want to revisit this classic moment on the show.
He ain't put the pen down since he got here. 1 minute, we can't have transgenders in the world. We can't have Mexicans. We can't have nothing. 1 minute, we ain't gonna be able to eat macaroni and cheese on the side of the road. I don't know. I don't feel like, I just feel like the world just need to start over. No, hell no. Then don't worry about it. Don't just scratch what I just said. The world does not need to be started over until this is a stressful life. You don't know when you're gonna pass away, how you gonna pass away. You don't know what's next. Somebody gonna come randomly. Oh, and what's up with these planes crashing every damn week?
I'm sorry. I can't resist, and I'll probably get hate mail for that one. But that's funny. That's funny stuff. Anyway, I can just imagine that's what they feel like when all of a sudden you realize your $2 billion has been exposed and it was a slush fund. All right, ladies and gentlemen, glad to have you here. Don't forget the Patreon page, patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. We got a lot of interviews back there that are behind the paywall. Some of them are because they're really long interviews, and we don't do long form interviews on this program, really. And some of them are back there because they have topics that YouTube and Dr. Fauci and the World Health Organization aren't real popular of, and they'll ban us. So it's patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. We dropped one last week about Franklin Roosevelt debunking the myths about his history and who he is. That's up there now. We'll play a clip from that in just a little bit after we talk to Leighton Gray. But also we got one of the drops this week about the cultural Christianity in America and the Western world. And Dr. Jim West talks about that in the new book he has. So that's dropping this week as well. So there's a lot of great stuff. It's $9.95 a month, and you support the program, and we give you good content back there. I think it's great content. It's longer form interviews, and we got more stuff coming down the pipe. And you'll get a 7-day free trial. I think you'll get your money's worth just for what's back there right now. That's already been posted up the last few months. It's all in the archives. All right. Good morning, everybody. Glad to have you here. Jimmy Lakey is my name. Don't forget, if you're on all the platforms, we originate off the facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. We are also on the Red Wave America page, the Media Equalizer Facebook page. But if you want to follow kind of the daily after the show, when I post that, it's usually on the X machine, the the Truth Social, and also don't forget facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. And we're glad to be on all the other streams, but that's kind of where the activity happens outside of the daily update that we do here right now. All right, let me bring into the program Leighton Gray. He's a phenomenal guy. Let me just, I've got so many buttons here on my screen today because we have a lot of videos going on. And if you could see the console, it's right here in front of me. But Leighton Gray is a wonderful Canadian gentleman, and he's been on the program before, and we've talked about U.S.-Canada relationships, and there's been a lot to talk about. So with no further ado, he's patiently waiting. It's Leighton Gray. Leighton, welcome back to the show, sir.
Good morning. I think that lady you had on, I think she's a Canadian hockey fan who was recently booing the American national anthem.
Planes falling from the sky. I don't know.
I'm glad I came early, though, seriously, because I love Richard Lyons. I've had him on my show. He's such a brilliant guy, and all of his books are great. I hope people will pick them up and read them.
Yeah, he's. I always like getting smart guys like you and Richard on the show, and that I could just be me. And I probably fall more on the spectrum towards that lady than you guys. You guys are the geniuses, and I'm out there trying to eat macaroni and cheese on the side of the road.
I love macaroni and cheese.
I've never eaten it on the side of the road, but she says before you know it, we ain't going to be able to eat a macaroni and cheese on the side of the road. So maybe there's something special about macaroni and cheese on the side of the road. I don't know.
Maybe. I'd probably be better with a good hot dog. But anyway.
Talk about last week about this time, you mentioned the booing of the national anthem. Mm-hmm. That was all the talk, the big fight that broke out, like 3 fights in 9 seconds in that hockey match. And America, we have a president now, President Trump, that can troll and talk smack better than anybody. And Americans,
I've noticed.
We're pretty good smack talkers as well. Mm-hmm. And there was all sorts of smack talking going on in America last week about the fights and the booing of the national anthem. What was it like on the streets of Canada? Were you guys waving that Canadian maple leaf flag in pride, or were you shocked that the tensions got so hot on the hockey rink?
Well, the Liberal, and when I say Liberal, that's a capital L, because that's the Liberal Party of Canada. That's Justin Trudeau's party, which has ruled Canada for 10 years. Their propaganda machine has been in high gear ever since our prime minister was summoned down to Mar-a-Lago before Christmas after Donald Trump won the election. And I think that conversation went something like this: Justin, you're a loser. The Communist Party, pardon the pun, is over up in Canada, and we're not going to have this. And just to tie into what you and Richard were talking about, all of these incredible gross expenditures, it looks an awful lot like a money laundering scheme. What's really going on in Canada is represented by globalism. And this is why all of a sudden people who are wondering, well, why is America so interested in Canada all of a sudden? We've been sort of America's top hat. We've been a loft apartment over a great party for 200 years. Why is America so interested in Canada? It's because Canada is a CCP client state. We are an avatar for globalism in North America. And if you want proof, you were talking about this waste in $2 billion. Well, look at what J.D. Vance, your vice president, was just saying over in Europe, saying, look, guys, this 80-year gig where we defended you, we went into debt, $36 trillion into debt, so you guys could have 3-month vacations and experiment in socialism. This is over. We're not doing this anymore. And they're saying to Mr. Zelensky, look, we're going to end this war for you. If you can't figure out how to end this war, we're going to end this war for you. What's Canada doing? Our prime minister, our supposedly lame duck prime minister, who's promised to resign, is over in Ukraine yesterday. He's offering them, he's promising them another $5 billion. So Canada is continued to go on this globalist track, this freight train that almost killed America under the Biden administration. That's the track that Canada is on. Justin Trudeau has no interest in securing our borders. The fentanyl trade, if you follow the money, goes all the way back to China. We had our second largest bank, TD Bank, which I think is the most active bank in the United States, got fined $3 billion and was called a criminal organization because they were participating in laundering money for drug cartels. This is the situation in Canada, and this is why I believe Donald Trump and his administration is so concerned about what's going on in Canada, because it does pose a serious geopolitical threat to the safety and security and prosperity of the United States. And Canada is feeling the effects, I believe, of MAGA, which is, to my mind, a made-in-America response to globalism. And I believe that is an irresistible force, and that globalism is a movable object. And Canada is feeling the reverberations of that right now. And so things are radically changing in Canada very quickly. And to answer your question, most Canadians are very, very uncomfortable and frightened about it.
It's fascinating. We keep hearing, and help us understand kind of boots on the ground. We keep hearing, as you said, that Justin Trudeau is going to resign, has resigned. Yet somehow he's still globetrotting around there and acting as the prime minister. We heard that there's some elections coming up in which his party's going to go down in a blaze of glory. Give us a timeline. When does this resignation happen? Is it really happening? When is this election going to happen?
I wish I knew. I don't believe that he's sincere about resigning. I believe that was a ruse that he floated to try and convince Donald Trump to back off on tariffs. But let's look at what's happening if Justin Trudeau resigns. The person who's coming in behind him is a man named Mark Carney, who's a World Economic Forum banker. He's a billionaire. And the Liberal Party of Canada is trying to do the same thing in our country that was attempted in your country through the former Vice President, Ms. Harris. That is, we have a man who's never been elected by anybody. He's never even run for public office, and he's essentially being anointed as Trudeau's successor. He's not promising an election. In fact, what he's promising is he's going to declare a state of emergency in Canada akin to COVID, because we are apparently in a trade war with the United States. What could be a more insipid policy than to get into a trade war with the United States, with whom our entire economy is integrated and on whom we depend entirely to protect our borders? Canada has no military to protect our borders. When Donald Trump says this and Mr. Vance say this, they're absolutely right. Canada cannot defend our own borders. In fact, Jimmy, you might recall these Chinese weather balloons that got floated over the United States and Canada. Well, Mr. Trudeau had to ask very nicely to Mr. Biden and his administration to go and shoot down the ones that are floating over Canada, because we didn't have planes that could do it. That's how dependent Canada is. And so when we talk about the 51st state, what Mr. Trump is really doing, what he's really signaling, is the reality that what Canada's choice is going forward is either we're going to continue to go down the road, which is the Silk and Road Belt and Road Initiative of China. That's where we're going right now. Or we're going to turn south and we're going to join hands with our American brothers in support of freedom and prosperity and all the great things that are going on in the United States.
One of the things that has kind of, I think, shocked the establishment here, the bureaucratic state of our government and the Democrat Party, the radicals out there, is that the message of conservatism, the message of MAGA, it gets out there. Shows like this, radio, television, they no longer have a monopoly on information. Talk about in Canada, obviously, you speak your mind. You have a podcast and you're known in Canada, but it's one of the things that kind of built the MAGA movement is that we could counter program their narrative in the media. Is there counter programming even allowed like this in Canada?
Well, it's dangerous. I've been canceled at least 3 times already. But you have to be relentless. You have to keep coming back if you are someone who's committed to telling the truth. But the reality is in Canada, the media is completely owned by the Liberal Party of Canada. They use tax dollars to buy that. The best example is the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, which has become like Pravda. It is essentially a propaganda arm of the government, much like CNN, unfortunately, has become in the United States for the Democrats. But the problem is in Canada, we don't have as sophisticated alternative sources of media as you have in the United States. And so it's more difficult to get those messages out. We're also more deeply censored because freedom of speech does not enjoy the same level of protection in Canada that it has in the United States because of the First Amendment.
I mean, I'm sitting here baffled that you mentioned that Justin Trudeau's over in Ukraine floating around and it seems like they want to keep this war going. I mean, I've asked the question to my listeners. Joe Biden didn't do anything. He sent Anthony Blinken over there a couple of times for some trip with some envoys, but there's never any demand to come to the table, never even set a table up in the middle of the room for anybody. Now, in America, I look at it like this. We have Americans that Dwight Eisenhower warned us on his farewell address, beware of the military-industrial complex, and they want to keep us a perpetual war because it makes people rich in the Washington, D.C. area and in that military-industrial complex. We have America, the pharmaceutical industrial complex. What is driving Justin Trudeau? Why wouldn't Canadians and other countries that maybe don't have that military-industrial complex, why are they so hell-bent on seemingly keep this war going?
Well, that's a great question, Jimmy, and I'm glad you asked it because it explains so much about what's going on in Canada. What I'd say to your American audience is imagine if Gavin Newsom had been your president for 2 successive terms. How much damage could he have done in your country? Well, that's what we've lived under with Justin Trudeau. And what the short answer to your question is globalism. And let me give you some numbers. So Canada has bought into the same stuff that your Biden administration was in the United States, this deep state. Last year alone, $600 million paid of Canadian taxpayer money to the Clinton Foundation, $351 million to Hamas, $2 billion to Pakistan, $2 billion to Libya, $400 million to Russia. Okay. Over $1 billion to Iraq. Okay, this is where, and then you get into Ukraine. Per capita, the only country that has given nearly as much money as the United States to the Ukraine war is Canada. We're behind the United States. We're number 2, and we're still supporting that. And what the truth is, what people need to understand, and what Mr. Vance and others are exposing in the United States, is that what the Ukraine proxy war is a vast money laundering scheme. And that's really at the heart of what globalism is. It's making the elites rich, and it's making the rest of us poorer. And unfortunately, this has been very, very acute in Canada, and it's not going to stop until Justin Trudeau is gone and the Liberals are gone. I believe that Donald Trump is acutely aware of this. And ironically, he and his government are doing more to change things in Canada than any Canadian politician. And I, as a Canadian, am very grateful for that. And I'm grateful that he has taken such an interest in the welfare of Canadians, because our Canadian politicians are doing nothing of the kind.
You mentioned the Belt and Road, the Silk Road initiative by China. I think a lot of folks under Biden, you look back and go, he wasn't trying to end the war. I wasn't aware that Canada was so financially invested in the war. And I wonder, where are the Europeans? This is your backyard. You guys ought to be leading the fray if we're going to put money there. But Donald Trump came in about a month out of after the election. He started talking about the Panama Canal. He started talking about Greenland. He started talking about our 51st state and Governor Trudeau. And people thought he was just kind of swinging a bunch of bluster and being foolish. It turns out there's some geopolitical threats that he had identified that we had not been told that existed. The Chinese controlling the Panama Canal. We had the Russians and the Chinese lurking around up in Greenland. These were real big geopolitical threats that I would hate to see what would have happened in a world where Donald Trump was not elected, because nobody else was talking about these threats.
Well, yes, and he's acutely aware of that. And I believe, again, you very astutely put your finger on the real issue. Donald Trump understands keenly that if we're not already in a Cold War with China, we're entering into one, and he means to win it. And he knows that at bottom that could require a military solution, or at least the threat of military force. But he talks about using economic force. And again, I think this is why he's so interested in Canada. Besides maple syrup and beer, Canada is very rich in natural resources, just as the United States is. And when you combine the natural resources of the United States and Canada, all of a sudden, jointly, we are number 1. We surpass Russia as the richest country in the world in terms of natural resources. This is China's Achilles heel. They don't have the natural resources that we have in the United States and Canada. They're not blessed as we are here. And in fact, the United States, if they shut down one particular strait near their country, all oil that going to China would stop. And America has it within their hands to completely shut down the Chinese economy. The Chinese are acutely aware of this. And this is why they covet Canada. Going back to 2014, just to elaborate here, Jimmy, our RCMP, which sort of functions as our FBI here in Canada, was warned in 2014 that China was taking a keen interest in Canada, and that they started influencing our elections and our institutions. And they became deeply invested. And the reason why is, just as they've done in Africa and other parts of the world, they go and they try to get their hands on these natural resources in order to prevent the risk of America, shutting them down. And I believe that this is a huge reason why, again, the Trump administration is so concerned about what's going on in Canada. because I think what Trump is saying in one sense is saying, look, not only China are you not going to have a foothold in the United States. Mr. Vance has said they're going to take back every blade of grass that China owns in the United States, but you're not going to have Canada. You're not going to have a foothold on our continent. You're not going to have those resources. If anybody's going to have them, the Americans are going to have them. And any Canadian should understand we're much better off being part of the American solution than being part of China.
Fascinating conversation. Leighton Gray, you have the Gray Matter podcast. If folks want to read more of your work, hear more of your work, stay in touch with you, how do they do that, sir?
The best place is on our X page because, as you mentioned, Jimmy, we're heavily censored in Canada. X seems to be the only sort of free flowing information. So at Gray Matter Convo, you'll find all of our content there. And if you like what you see, please follow us. There's also our Substack that's connected to the X page. But thanks very much for having me on your program. It's been my pleasure talking with you this morning.
I appreciate it. And do Canadians know the words to the national anthem, our national anthem?
We sing them.
You sing them?
We sing them. We sing the Star Spangled Banner. We do. Oh, yeah. We love, listen, Canadians love America. We cherish America. It's only the stupid people at the hockey games who are booing. But, people are so vulnerable, as you know, Jimmy. People are sadly very vulnerable to propaganda. And the anti-American propaganda right now serves the globalists well. And but I firmly believe, and I'm praying that what we're seeing are the death throes of globalism in Canada. And if that happens, it'll be all due to what's happening with Donald Trump and his government and the MAGA movement.
Well, Leighton, it's a pleasure, my friend. I didn't know. See, I thought you guys just booed it. I didn't know you sang the words to it.
Oh, yeah, I know all the words.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, say, can you see? It's a beautiful, beautiful anthem.
Hit those high notes and things. All right. Leighton Gray, I appreciate you, my friend. Gray Matter Convo on the Twitter. Gray Matter Convo on the Twitter. Make sure you find him there. All right. Good to have you here on the program. We'll run through some of the headline news here in just a moment again. But I want to remind you that you can support this program in a lot of ways. One of the ways is you support people who support us, right? And Sherry Cree is been on the program now about a month. One of our sponsors, and we appreciate her. Listen, it's, in Colorado, it's been nice weather, and weather traditionally, people start saying, well, maybe this fall, this spring, this summer, we're going to start getting ready to sell. You want to downsize, you want to upsize. Listen, why don't you go into it with a kind of a game plan? Sherry views real estate as something that can build generational wealth for you, and she wants you to have a strategy other than just put a sign up and slap some paint on the wall. Really look at where you're going, where you want to be, how long do you want to be in that next home? Really just kind of understand the market, the trends that she sees out there. It's white glove realty at its very best. And you can just learn more about her, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Nobody likes packing up the boxes. Nobody likes the moving process. But if you can kind of look at it kind of a strategy session that's going to help advance your cause and literally set you into a path of generational wealth, then it's not as burdensome and it's not as miserable. So don't just settle for a real estate sign in the front yard. Make sure you have someone that's going to approach it with some strategy and help your dreams come true, not just by the number of cars that you can fit in your garage, but your long-term. She wants to be your realtor for life. She wants to be the one that in 4 or 5 years, 6 years, if you become an empty nester or whatever, you want to downsize, you still call Sherry. She'll do a conversation with. There's no arm twisting. She's not a high-pressure person to you. She just wants to have a conversation, see kind of what you're looking at, and get some timelines worked out for you. And then when it's time to make the move, you decide you want to call Sherry. Homeswithsherry.com. That's her website. Anywhere from this I-25 corridor in Colorado. If you're listening out of state, hey, we'll work on some realtors from out of state and other areas. But right now we're talking about Colorado, Denver area, Fort Collins area, Boulder area, Aurora. She'll make sure you don't get a home or a neighborhood that's infested by Tren de Aragua. I mean, she'll help you out there. And again, I could name all the suburbs, but you get the idea. Homeswithsherry.com for your real estate need and conversation. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. And make sure you tell her that Jaime Lagos, that's me, Jimmy Lakey, is telling you about her. Homeswithsherry.com. All right, nice to have you. Everybody's happy to be here. I've mentioned the Patreon page, and in just a moment, I want to play a cut from the Patreon page. We had Dr. Mary Graybar on last week, and she talked about FDR, and she wrote a book called Debunking FDR, because most people don't understand the really maniacal thoughts that FDR had. Did you know that FDR at one point kind of pictured a world that after World War II, he and Stalin would break up the spoils and he would run one part of the globe and Stalin could have the other one? And that was kind of the maniacal thoughts in the evil, beady little head of FDR. And it's really fascinating conversation. And Mary Graybar is part of that. Matter of fact, let's do this, producer Chad. Let's go ahead and play this. This is a couple of minutes. Now, there's a whole interview. I think it's 45 minutes on the Patreon page. And Dr. Mary Graybar, she's a college professor. Give me a cue. She's a college professor that has been canceled many times because she believes in looking at history through the lens of truth, not through the lens of propaganda. And so she has views about FDR that are probably not taught at most of your liberal indoctrination centers. And this is my conversation. It's on the Patreon page, 7-day free trial, $9.95 a month. I hope you'll do it to help support the program. But it's Dr. Mary Graybar, my conversation with her. It's up live on the Patreon behind a paywall. This is a preview of the conversation. If you're a student of history, I think you'll enjoy. Go ahead. Talk about his cousin Teddy. Teddy was older. Did they? I'm looking. I need to look at birth dates and death dates. Was there interaction between Teddy and FDR in the younger days, and even their families?
There were two branches of the family. There was the Oyster Bay branch, and then there was the Poughkeepsie Hudson River Valley branch. So they were, a distance apart. There wasn't that much interaction. And of course, Teddy Roosevelt was a Republican, and James Roosevelt, Franklin's father, was a Democrat. So there really wasn't much, but Franklin really wanted to be part of that family. He wanted to latch onto the fame and glory of Cousin Teddy. And he was invited as a teenager to come out to Oyster Bay for a party, defied his mother, and did go. And he deliberately sought out, his cousin. And Teddy Roosevelt came and gave a few lectures at Groton at his school, and was welcomed as this big hero. And so Franklin maneuvered to sort of get Teddy's endorsement of him, and really just emulated him and tried to ingratiate himself with him, and of course then married Eleanor, and Teddy Roosevelt officiated at the wedding. So but that was a political marriage as well. So, there was that connection. So one way to get in with the Oyster Bay branch of the family is to marry someone from there, which is what Franklin Roosevelt did. And I think it was a calculated political move.
So that's the interview. It's up behind there's a lot of calculation in the maniacal head of FDR, and it's an interesting conversation. Again, the book is called FDR Debunking FDR, and she wants to debunk the lies and the propaganda, the narrative. And we talk about that in the interview about why is it that we're so hell-bent on talking about and spinning this narrative about who FDR is and who FDR was. And a lot of scheming that went on there. And he was a man that perceived himself in history of aren't you glad that you get to vote for me? And I'm going to run again because I know you would love to vote for me. He's that kind of guy. And narcissism, sociopath, those are some of the words that come up in the conversation. It's at Patreon, patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey, patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. It's one way you can support the program. Again, $9.95 a month, your subscription canceled at any time, 7-day free trial. But I hope you go watch it. There's some good stuff back there. There's some stuff on the, what we called on the radio show, the booger cootie virus, the little effort Dr. Fauci. There's some stuff that the old tube of the U doesn't like us to say on this program. So we say it all at patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. And I think it is again, this is a free service that producer Chad and I provide to you every morning. And we appreciate those who advertise with us. We appreciate those who are who are subscribers on Patreon. It all helps us stay afloat. It's a very expensive hobby, very, very expensive. Just the hourly rate that producer Chad and I should be making, it's very expensive hobby. All right, I'm glad to have all of you here. Let's run through some of the news headlines. Some of you weren't here the first of the program. I'm glad to have you here. Joy Reid, anybody watch the Joy Reid show? I don't think I ever watched the Joy Reid show on the MSNBC. I try to best to stay away from MSNBC. I want to hear some brains and some smart, and I can hear different opinions, but I don't want to hear stupidity. And I think MSNBC is all stupidity at this point, but they're not renewing your contract. You know what's interesting about the television thing is I guess she's going to get to do her show this week. I don't know how. In radio, as I learned just recently, and I've learned before, you do a show. I said, if you're going to fire me the night before so I can sleep in. Well, these lazy asses didn't do that. I had to go and do a whole damn show, and then they showed me out the door right after the show because people are lazy and they're not real principled people, I have to say sometimes. And it's upper management way up somewhere in some ivory tower somewhere. Well, Joy Reid got fired. And you want to talk, she's called the race baiter. I mean, some of the clips that I saw of her show over the weekend, she was absolutely hell-bent on race, and everything was viewed through. She really probably one of the biggest race baiters you could probably find on television. I think she makes Al Sharpton and those type of people look like they want peace and harmony and not trying to divide us by race. But Joy Reid, if she can't survive at NBC, I hope she got a good severance check. And because I'm guessing I'm guessing she'll show up on some obscure podcast that a bunch of race baiting racists want to watch. So she's out of MSNBC. They're revamping the show. They're putting other people in the prime time, but they're still going to be liberal. They're taking a liberal bent. It's fascinating to watch. Another story that I found interesting over the weekend, we don't often you didn't hear about this. We're talking about Leighton Gray, and I meant to ask him about this. And he talks about how Justin Trudeau and the globalists have taken over, but he hopes the globalist movement with Donald Trump and MAGA and things that are happening around the globe. He hopes that the globalist movement is on its last throes. We're hoping for that. There's an interesting story. Germany's conservative opposition leader, Friedrich Merz, won a lackluster victory in a national election Sunday, while Alternative for Germany doubled its support projection show. So there's some political change happening there in Germany, which is also fascinating because we realized just last week with some of the 60 Minutes conversation and J.D. Vance at that Munich summit, we learned that there's a lot of not freedom that's happening in Germany. So there's some political upheaval happening there. So keep an eye on it. And it's just fascinating to watch the dominoes in many places around the globe are starting to fall for some of these globalist allies as their schemes have been uncovered. And it's going to be interesting to continue to watch as Donald Trump puts America back in the forefront in the driving most powerful seat as the trendsetter in America. So that's going to be interesting as well. We talked about the story. The Pope has been in critical condition. It sounds like I think Cardinal Dolan from New York said, "We're watching our dying father." I mean, it sounded like that they were pretty much ready for last rites over the weekend. They say now he's still in critical condition. He's feeding himself, but their prognosis is unknown because he has, I guess, double pneumonia. And I was early this morning listening. They say that sepsis is a possibility with that, and that's not a good thing. So anyway, if you're a praying person, whether you like this pope or not, it would be good to pray for him. He's in critical condition, and we'll see. It sounds like it's kind of a touch and go thing, but double pneumonia. He, I guess, as a young man, had half of a lung removed, and so he's always had respiratory problems, and so the Pope is there. Another news story, I mentioned the first half of the show, and I want to keep the information going. USAID. Anybody follow the United States? All the nonsense. My page link disappeared. They're still finding stuff, basically, that USAID was doing, and now they're laying off employees or cutting that department, and it's going to be interesting to see, once it's all said and done, how many people are remaining in that department. Kash Patel goes to the FBI, and maybe you didn't hear this, but Dan Bongino from radio fame and television fame, but mostly radio recently, Dan Bongino's leaving the radio. He's heading off to Washington, D.C. He's going to become the assistant director of the FBI under Kash Patel, and he can begin that job today because there is no confirmation hearing for that. So that's going to be a fascinating duo. You imagine, and again, I want you to understand the magnitude of this. And if you missed the first part of the program, go back and see my interview with historian, author, poet Richard C. Lyons, talking about the magnitude and the impact that this could possibly be the single. I mean, Pam Bondi's great, heading the Justice Department, Kash Patel, but this assignment of Dan Bongino teaming up with Kash Patel, it is going to be interesting. I mean, this is the first full week on the job from Kash Patel. And I think if you put your ear to the walls of the FBI building, you probably hear some boxes packing and some squeaking. And you're also finding, though, what we talked about with Richard Lyons, you're going to find people that will burrow themselves down and hide out. And that's what we talked about with Richard C. Lyons, and we talked about that a little bit with Leighton Gray, and that's possible. And that's going to be Kash and Dan. They're going to go through there, and they're going to find those people that are trying to just kind of keep a low profile, and that way the bureaucratic state stays, and they're going to flush it out. It's going to get very, very interesting. I always love a good troll. I try to be a troll. I'm not consistent enough at it. I think Donald Trump has someone following him with a phone so he can troll someone. Donald Trump's does a great troll again. This is really quite fascinating. He deployed a SpongeBob meme to troll the critics of DOGE. I don't know if you saw the story. He shared a SpongeBob SquarePants theme meme after Elon Musk announced that federal workers would receive an email seeking information about what they did last week. If you haven't seen it, they have a SpongeBob SquarePants. I did because my son liked to watch it, and I watched it with him. So it's Elon with SpongeBob, and they're checking it. Got done last week. Cried about Trump, cried about Elon, made it in the office for once, read some emails, cried about Trump and Elon some more. So he said this is how he's trolling the government workers who are all supposed to say, hey, send a report in to your bosses and to me what you accomplished last week on your job. And this is what he's trolling. He's trolling these government workers that probably aren't working much. They're probably just scanning on their phones and trying to find ways to sabotage Elon and Donald Trump. And hey, watch out there. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino on the job. He's a great troller. President Trump is a great troller. His 51st state, his Governor Trudeau, the SpongeBob meme, he's a master troller. And I find it quite humorous. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. I meant to cut it and show it to you, but I didn't do that. We'll show it next time. We'll show it tomorrow. Is it? Today's also the day the federal, not only they have to do a report on what they're accomplishing at their office, they need to do a report on it, but they also have to return to the federal offices today. And that's going to be interesting, my friends. We are watching, as I talked about with Richard Lyons this morning, we're watching some history being made every day right in front of our very eyes. Speaking of trolls, you see this last week. I meant to play it on Friday, but we had a short show because of things. But I want to show you this thing. This is Stephen Miller goes into the White House press room, and they're squawking and balking. Elon Musk is not elected, and they're doing all this crying, right? All these government workers and the media all crying about this. And Stephen Miller, who's the assistant chief of staff at the White House, comes out, and he pretty much, again, they're not taking crap anymore. They're not taking crap from these agenda-driven media narratives that become Pravda agents. They're not taking crap. If you missed it, if you didn't miss it, you want to watch this again. This is a classic, but this is kind of the Trump White House in a nutshell. We're just not going to take it anymore. We're not doing it. Watch this.
True that many of the people in this room for 4 years failed to cover the fact that Joe Biden was mentally incompetent and was not running the country. It is also true that many people in this room who have used this talking point that Elon is not elected fail to understand how government works. So I'm glad for the opportunity for a brief civics lesson. A president is elected by the whole American people. He's the only official in the entire government that is elected by the entire nation, right? Judges are appointed, members of Congress are elected at the district or state level, which is one man. And the Constitution, Article 2, has a clause known as the vesting clause, and it says the executive power shall be vested in a president, singular. The whole will of democracy is imbued into the elected president. That president then appoints staff to then impose that democratic will onto the government. The threat to democracy, indeed the existential threat to democracy, is the unelected bureaucracy of lifetime tenured civil servants who believe they answer to no one, who believe they can do whatever they want without consequence, who believe they can set their own agenda no matter what Americans vote for. So Americans vote for radical FBI reform, and FBI agents say they don't want to change. Or Americans vote for radical reform on our energy policies, but EPA bureaucrats say they don't want to change. Or Americans vote to end DEI, racist DEI policies, and lawyers at the Department of Justice say they don't want to change. What President Trump is doing is he is removing federal bureaucrats who are defying democracy by failing to implement his lawful orders, which are the will of the whole American people.
That is, again, some fascinating lecture. We're not going to take it. You're asking dumbass questions, so I'm going to give you an answer about how this is, how this whole thing works, and what Elon Musk is doing is surely constitutional, and you don't have to like it, but it is constitutional. All right, it's 80 years ago yesterday. The flag was raised at Iwo Jima, that historic image that we had in World War II, where the United States Marines had taken over Mount Suribachi. And early in the day, they put up a smaller flag and said, "No, we're going to go Trump style, and we're going to put a bigger flag up there." And that award-winning photo, the embolism of American greatness in WW2. And you're starting to wonder if we're going to get back to some American greatness in leadership around the globe now that we have somebody in the White House that's not going to take this crap anymore. And Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, boy, can you imagine? I mean, seriously, can you imagine if people have been as corrupt as what we think some of them have been, and we know they've been, there is a reason that they had 2 weeks ago the story that the number one search in Washington, D.C. By far on the Google and on the web searches were criminal defense attorney. There is a reason that people in Washington, D.C., in that administrative state, and contractors are they're out there a little bit panicked because they're afraid that they're about to be outed and the light is shining on the darkness that they have been performing. All right, play this one more time. All of you get ready to spew your coffee as we watch. Remember this as you hear about, I played this early in the morning, but I want to play it one more time before we wrap things up. It's Zelensky, and again, before you all get your panties in a bunch about Zelensky, and why does he call him a dictator, and why are we still funding him, and why are we being so mean to Zelensky? Let it never be thought in history that Volodymyr Zelensky is ever going to be remembered as some Churchillian leader. Don't ever think that. And also don't ever think that the reason, we talked about this with Leighton Gray earlier, is the reason that people want this global battle to go. In America, we have the military-industrial complex that likes endless wars, but you also have the ability to launder money. Remember all the billions of dollars that we have sent to Ukraine, right? We sent all this money to Ukraine, and where was the center of Hunter Biden's business scheming? It was in Ukraine. And now we send billions of dollars to Ukraine again for a war, and yet billions of dollars that Volodymyr Zelensky said he needed, he can't find. And I'm not okay with that. And I that's why I think you can call Volodymyr Zelensky anything you want. When you've lost billions of dollars that America sent your ass and you can't find it, then you're not a good person. A dictator may not be as strong as what it should be. But again, if you ever want to, if the media tries to portray Volodymyr Zelensky as some little victim out there, let's not forget that he stole billions of dollars, that he's mismanaged it, and he's no Churchill. Watch this.
And we sent $250 billion to this guy right here. And some of y'all are worried about Elon Musk finding corruption. That's why I don't take things in this life too seriously anymore.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. One more time. Got to show it again. That's true footage. That's Zelensky. I don't think Churchill ever did that. If he did, maybe J. Edgar Hoover did that, but I don't think Churchill ever did that. All right. I want to remind you, my friends, about some of our great sponsors out there, great friends of my program for many years. I've been Corey Clinton, 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning. If you're in Colorado, and it's warmed up the last couple of days, and soon enough, it's going to be air conditioning season. Please, even so, come quickly, air conditioning season. But it's still heater season. Listen, what all of your HVAC needs and your home service needs, I trust Corey Clinton. 1hourheatandair.com/Jimmy Lakey. 1hourheatandair.com/Jimmy Lakey. 855-1-HOUR. They've done all the repairs. They've done installation. They've replaced the entire HVAC systems in my home. Even the ventilation in my cigar room. They took care of that in my home cigar room, and I recommend them. I had a friend last couple of weeks ago, two friends recently needed a plumber, and I said, hey, it's not just 1 hour heating and air conditioning. They have Benjamin Franklin Plumbing. They can take care of you, and they also have Mr. Sparky Electric. So all of your home service needs, they can help you out. But just go to their website, my page on their website, 1hourheatandair.com/Jimmy Lakey, and when you call them, say, hey, Jimmy Lakey, that very handsome guy that's on the stream, again, anywhere under the sound of my, if you're in Colorado, they have a very wide coverage area. And so don't be afraid to call them and say, hey, can you come see me? Especially if you're that I-25 corridor out east and even part of the mountains. So just reach out to them. They have big coverage area, great fleet, and they're good people. And a big sponsor of our charity golf event every year. 1hourheatandair.com/Jimmy Lakey, 855-1-HOUR. All right, we're going to do the stolen meme section of the show here. Prepare your hearts for that. And again, I want to remind you the Patreon page is going to have another interview, I think drops today or tomorrow. So there's new stuff coming out. The Dr. Mary Graybar interview is up there. You gotta go watch this stuff. It's good stuff. And if you want to reach out, advertise on the program, do it at info@jimmylakey.com, info@jimmylakey.com, info@jimmylakey.com. This week, I got to get Joshua Lewis back on the program, talk about some of the market reaction now that we're 30 days into the Trump administration. Where are we at? Inflation's high. We'll do that. Lehman Lewis is a great group of people as well. They supported my radio show for many years from day one. On the old 600 signal that I was on for over 10 years. And I'm always thankful for their support of the program. And if you've been thinking about your retirement and you're not sure you're positioned right, and you're like, hey, if we're going to enter the glory days of America, I want to be positioned in the right place. If we're going to get to a booming economy, I want to have booming investments. Maybe you're just not sure you've handled it all right. Have a conversation. Reach out to them, LehmanLewis.com. They can help you pretty much all around the country. If they can't, they'll let you know. But this is not one of those Colorado only things. This is all of you. LehmanLewis.com, LehmanLewis.com. Reach out to them. Lehman Lewis Financial Group. It's family owned, family operated. Alicia Lewis. Josh Lewis, Chuck Lehman is not as much a part of it anymore. He's just my buddy, but they try to keep him out of the office as much as possible. And if you know Chuck, you know why. I love Chuck. It's LehmanLewis.com, LehmanLewis.com. And again, if you're thinking about your retirement and you're thinking, am I positioned right? Is it with the economy and the changes and just LehmanLewis.com. LehmanLewis.com, a great fiduciary of your investment, and they'll help you out. LehmanLewis.com. My good friends. I think I can say that, right? Well, there's regulations of what they can, but yeah, I'm saying it. All right. Here we go, my friends. Let's do it. Let's spin the wheel. This is our wheel, and the reason I spin the globe is because we couldn't afford a real wheel, and so this was a gift set that I bought at an auction and came with it. It's a little cheap globe, but it fits the occasion because we steal things. We're honest. We're not real. We don't create them ourselves. We steal things. We go round and round the world we go, and where we steal the memes, no one knows where we steal them from. But here we go. Spin the wheel. Round and round the world we go. Where do we steal the memes from today? Oh, it's the Babylon Bee. Cruel. Elon Musk cuts off Social Security benefits for thousands of Revolutionary War veterans. I hate it when that happens. Those poor Revolutionary War veterans. He's a mean and cruel and unusual son of a gun. Yeah, Elon's cruel, isn't he? Here we go. Round and round the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. There's the FAFO. Anybody know what that means? FAFO, you got to blow your screen up real good to see it. DOGE should be renamed for the Federal Agency Financial Oversight. And yeah, FAFO, that's what it really stands for, right? That's funny. FAFO usually means F around, find out. But I like this, the clean version, Federal Agency for Financial Oversight. I think that's probably a good suggestion. Let's see if Brother Elon would take that from him. Brother Elon, if you're watching, I would concur that's a great name. Spin the wheel, round the round. Oh, we got to grease this thing up. There you have it, Dan Bongino and Cash Patel on the job, Starsky and Hutch, man. That's kind of that kind of thing. Yeah, they're looking good, aren't they? That's the Justice League is all together now. Pam Bondi, Cash Patel. Round and round the world we go. Here we go. Another Babylon Bee, healthy vegan food, carefully constructed in laboratory using 957 chemicals. Anybody eat that fake meat ever? What's it called? The Impossible? Some of those restaurants tried. I think like Burger King tried to do some of these fake burgers. Anybody ever order one? I'm thinking, you know what? If the good Lord didn't make it, I don't need to. It's a plant-based food, but have you looked at how many chemicals are in the plant-based food? It's not really plant-based. It's silliness. And the same way that we got the rid of the red dye in the same way we got rid of plastic straws. Let's get rid of plant-based food like that. That's nonsense. All right. Join us May 17th. It's there on the screen. It's our casino gala, and it's going to be at the Omni Interlaken Resort in Broomfield, Colorado. Now, I know you people, all of you, all around. We have a lot of Colorado viewers that happen throughout the day, and we also have people out of state. This is an event you could come in for. It's a casino night. It's all for fun. Optional rebuys and all that stuff. It's all for fun. This is not. We're not gambling. It's just fun. There's instruction. They'll teach you how to play craps if you've never played craps. Teach you how to play the blackjack, and just it's going to be a great night of fun. Some live music going to be there. Rumor is Frank Sinatra. That's what I'm hearing. Food's going to be served. There's a cash bar. It's in a pavilion area, so you can light up your big cigars if you want to. And it's going to be a great celebration, all benefiting my charity organization, Rivers Promise. And I'll give a big shout out to Budget Home Supply in Longmont, Colorado. They're the title sponsor of this event, helping make it possible. So thank you to Vernetta Angelo and the Budget Home Supply folks for being a sponsor. They'll be there. They got a big table there. You can buy a table. You can come as an individual. And again, if you're coming get out of town, once you register, you'll get a link and you can get a discounted block of rooms or room if you'd like to make a vacation or staycation out of it. So it's May 17th. All the information is at riverspromise.org or riverspromise.com. At riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. There's an events tab, and you can find the event and you can register. It's open now. Get registered because it won't be open forever. I'm telling you, go get registered soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure on a Monday for you to join us. For most of you watching in the morning, some of you will be watching this in delay throughout the day. I appreciate you doing it. I appreciate you supporting our great sponsors. I appreciate you subscribing on the Patreon page. And most importantly, I appreciate you just joining here. And as Chad and I give free love every morning, we don't charge admission. You're in high dollar seats right now. You're like sitting in the VIP section, and yet Chad and I offer our love to you for free. But help support, advertise, info at JimmyLakey.com, patreon.com/JimmyLakey. Patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. I'll be active on the Twitter machine today, and I will also be active on the Facebook. If you don't follow me on either one, it's just my name on Facebook, or my name on the Twitter, and Facebook is ready. Facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. A lot of you watch on different platforms, so follow me there. That's where I stay active throughout the day. I mean this. Thank you for tuning in. May God bless you. May God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. I'm out of here. Everybody run along. You got bills to pay. You got to go fund those circumcisions in Mozambique. Yeah, got to go fund Stacey Abrams slush fund. You got to do that too. Everybody go to work. Got to send our money all around the globe. On the Facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. And yes, I'll put the DOGE song on Facebook here in just a second. God bless. See you tomorrow. Tell your friends about it.